At first light, a king ran to a sealed pit. He called down into the darkness. His voice was desperate. "Daniel, has your God been able to rescue you?" There was silence. Then, a voice answered from below. This is the story of Daniel, a man who prayed when prayer became a crime, and the night he spent surrounded by lions. Daniel was an old man now. He had survived empires. Babylon rose and fell. Persia conquered. Kings came and went. And through it all, Daniel remained. He had been taken from Jerusalem as a boy when Nebuchadnezzar conquered Judah. They gave him a new name, Belteshazzar, that honored Babylonian gods instead of the God of Israel. But names are not identity. Daniel served. He interpreted dreams when no one else could. He outlasted the kings he counseled. Now, under Darius the Mede, he was one of 3 administrators over the entire kingdom. 120 regional governors reported to him. And among the 3, Daniel stood out. The king planned to set him over the whole kingdom. The other officials noticed. Jealousy does not always announce itself. It watches, it waits, it searches for weakness. The officials examined Daniel's work. They looked for mistakes, some failure in judgment, some corruption they could exploit. Days passed, maybe weeks. They found nothing. No corruption, no errors, no negligence. Daniel was trustworthy in everything. His record was flawless, not because he was perfect, but because he had been faithful. So they met together, and they agreed on one thing. We will never find any basis for charges against this man unless it has something to do with the law of his God. His God, that is where they would strike. They went to King Darius with flattery wrapped in a trap. May King Darius live forever. All the royal administrators issue a decree that for the next 30 days, anyone who prays to any god or human except you, your majesty, shall be thrown into the lion's den. It appealed to the king's vanity. 30 days of unity, everyone looking to him alone. The king signed it, and according to the law of the Medes and Persians, once signed, it could not be changed, not even by the king himself. The trap was set. Daniel heard about the decree. The text does not say he was surprised. It does not say he was afraid. It only says what he did next. He went home. He went upstairs to his room. The windows opened toward Jerusalem, the city he was taken from as a boy, the city he had not seen in decades. And he knelt. He prayed 3 times a day, just as he had always done. The windows were open. This was not defiance. This was not a statement. This was simply who Daniel was, what he had always done. Anyone passing by could see him. Anyone watching would know. He did not close the windows. He did not wait until dark. He did not hide. He prayed. The officials found him there. Of course they did. They had been watching. They went immediately to the king. Did you not sign a decree that for 30 days anyone who prays to any god or human except you would be thrown into the lion's den? The king confirmed it. The decree stands, according to the law of the Medes and Persians, which cannot be repealed. Then they struck. Daniel, one of the exiles from Judah, pays no attention to you or your decree. He still prays 3 times a day. The king was greatly distressed. This was not what he intended. Daniel was his most trusted advisor. He spent the rest of the day searching for a way out, some loophole, some way to undo what he signed. But the law of the Medes and Persians could not be changed. The officials returned at sunset. The king had no choice. He gave the order. They brought Daniel to the den. Lions' dens were pits, deep holes carved into rock or dug into the earth. The lions lived at the bottom. Prisoners were lowered from above. The king spoke to Daniel before they lowered him in. May your God, whom you serve continually, rescue you. It was not a command. It was not even confidence. It was a plea, the desperate hope of a man who had been trapped by his own vanity. They placed Daniel inside. A stone was rolled over the opening. The king sealed it with his signet ring. The nobles added their seals. No one could move it. No one could reach him. Nothing could be changed. The king returned to his palace. He refused food. He sent away the musicians. He dismissed anyone who might distract him. He could not sleep. The night stretched long. He lay awake imagining what was happening in the den, whether Daniel was still alive, whether the lions had already struck. He had sent men to their deaths before. This was different. This was Daniel, his friend, his advisor, the one man in the kingdom he trusted completely. And he could not undo it. The text does not tell us what Daniel did in the den. It does not say whether he stood or sat, whether he prayed or stayed silent. It does not describe what it felt like to spend a night surrounded by predators, to hear their breathing in the darkness, to wait through hours not knowing if each moment would be your last. The text is silent on all of this. It only records that the night passed, until, finally, the first light appeared. At first light, the king rose and hurried to the den. When he reached it, he called out. His voice was anguished. "Daniel, servant of the living God, has your God been able to rescue you?" There was a pause. And then, from inside the sealed den, a voice answered, "May the king live forever. My God sent his angel, and he shut the mouths of the lions. They have not hurt me, because I was found innocent in his sight. Nor have I ever done any wrong before you, your majesty." The king was overjoyed. He ordered them to lift Daniel out of the den. When they pulled him up, they examined him. No wound, no scratch, not a mark. The text says this plainly: because he had trusted in his God. The king's mercy did not extend to those who orchestrated the trap. He ordered the accusers brought to the den, they and their wives and their children. The text does not soften what happens next. Before they even reached the bottom, the lions overpowered them. Every bone was crushed. The same lions that left Daniel untouched through an entire night devoured his accusers in seconds. Justice, perhaps, but brutal justice. The text does not explain it. It only records what happened. King Darius wrote a decree, not to one city or one province, but to all peoples and nations throughout his kingdom. I issue a decree that in every part of my kingdom, people must fear and reverence the God of Daniel, for he is the living God. He endures forever. His kingdom will not be destroyed. He rescues and saves. He has rescued Daniel from the power of the lions. Daniel prospered during the reign of Darius, and later, during the reign of Cyrus. The story does not tell us what Daniel thought during that night. It does not say whether he was afraid, whether he prayed through the darkness, whether he wondered if morning would ever come. It only tells us what he did when the law was passed. He went home. He opened his windows toward Jerusalem, and he prayed 3 times a day, as he had always done. Not to make a point, not to defy the king, not to prove his courage, simply because it was who he was. Faithfulness is not one dramatic decision made in a moment of crisis. It is the quiet decision made every day, 3 times a day, with the windows open. It is built in the ordinary moments, the daily choices, the habits that become identity. Long before anyone threatened him, Daniel had already chosen. By the time the lions came, the choice was already made. The den did not create his faith. It only revealed what had been there all along.